See, the tricky thing about me trying to reflect on my own struggles based on identity is that I still don't fully identify as female. I identify as non-binary now. But until the age of 13, I was Chloe Annabelle Taylor. I use she, her pronouns, and I had recently actually come out as pansexual. I'd struggled between bisexual and pansexual for a long time, but I'd realized that, gender didn't seem like something that was that important to me. So pansexual seemed the way to go at that time. Then, some little background for me growing up. I had 4 brothers, and this was very apparent in the way that I acted. I was not uncomfortable with being pushed around or like rough play or anything like that. I was always out in the woods and being dirty, so I could have been qualified as what many people would say a tomboy. Now, this in combination with me being raised by my biological father, who was very conservative and would take me hunting. He would give me hand-me-down clothes from my brother that I would only wear at his house. I was basically not allowed to express any femininity because it was that type of like, you're my little girl, you're not allowed to be a woman type of situation. And that added a whole nother layer of confusion of my own identity into the pot. But regardless of all of this input from the people around me, I still had some non-traditional interests, and I had some things that were different about me. I was queer, and a lot of people in my family weren't. It was a mainly straight community that I grew up in, whether that be in my household or in the school that I went to and the activities that I attended. This also was the same with traditional female and masculine presentation. There wasn't very much variance as to what we may see today. Like, I have my hair short and I wear androgynous clothing. That's not something that I would have seen growing up. But I decided to do some experimentation my own around the time of 13 years of age. I decided to start presenting as gender fluid for a while, using he, she, and they pronouns, and kind of just going all over the spectrum. It was a very fun and interesting time. I got to experience that with one of my best friends, which I'm very grateful for. But I then decided to start going by the name Blake Augustus and using just he and they pronouns and identifying as transmasculine. Was this done as a result of me rejecting my femininity? No, not at all. When I was identifying as Blake, I would still wear dresses, I still did my makeup, I still did all of these traditionally feminine things, but I wanted to embrace a part of myself that was different, outside of the box. I knew that I already belonged in this space, as I had already recognized several things about myself as being different, such as being artistic or having interest in the arts versus the science and math fields. And then I also knew that I didn't want to necessarily always look feminine. I knew I would always be perceived as being a woman or a girl from the outside world and the public in general. But this didn't stop me from then going and starting to bind my chest. I cut my hair. I had changed my clothes to fit things that I thought were more masculine. And I would sometimes also change my voice to be higher or lower. Notice that I still have a tendency to shift my voice sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to. But this is also just one of the many facets of my current gender identity and presentation. Getting back onto the timeline of things, though, I decided to give my mother a letter when I came out as Blake, and I gave her this letter, then went on vacation to my grandparents for a week and hadn't had really any contact with her other than texting her. It was a very stressful situation for both of us. And throughout the summer, I kept trying to present as Blake, but it was becoming increasingly uncomfortable and difficult because though my mother did want to support me, she didn't want to see her little girl go away. And I understood that. But I was also starting to understand that I didn't have to be completely masculine and completely Blake or a boy to be who I wanted to be and present how I wanted to present. A lot of people around me tried asking if my decision to present as male was tied to my attraction to women. And this was an absurd thing, in my opinion, that because I am attracted to women, I would want to look like a man to attract more women. Though this might make sense in a cis and binary viewpoint, this was not where I was trying to go. And I learned that I could attract women being feminine more likely than looking like a man in most circumstances, because women liking women like women. I know it's a very complex and crazy idea to think about. But also discussed while I was going through all of this was if it was a self-harm reaction, because I did have a history with struggling with my mental health and with self-harm. And I contemplated this as being part of it, and I'm still not 100% sure if that's the case. I have never been 100% comfortable with myself as a woman. I feel like there are things about my body that are not traditional to what we see in media, and that has always hit me very hard. Seeing women represented in film and TV shows as being very voluptuous or having cleavage that you would always be able to see and never having any body hair, as well as having their faces completely beautiful all of the time without any blemishes or acne, and seemingly without makeup, though we all know they were probably wearing it. Reflecting on all of this during my time of expression helped me realize that this was not self-harm. This was self-care. I was finally giving in to comfort. I was letting myself be however and whoever I wanted to be. I am very happy with who I am today and how I present myself today. I'm AB. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm non-binary, I guess, or gender non-conforming, and I say I'm queer to most people, but it doesn't really matter. Though I am happy, it is still difficult to reflect on and understand my identity, and it's been a process to go through and look at my memories from these times in my life and my own perception of myself. There are many ties to trauma in my identity based on family circumstances, on my mental health, my self-image, there are also many things that I have had to accept or reject that have been ingrained in my brain, whether that be that girls have to have pink and boys have to have blue, or that because I am queer, I have to be butch. Though we know that's not true. There's a spectrum of identity for everybody, and we can be whoever we want to be. And people can either like that or they cannot. There's no guidebook to gender and sexuality and expression. And that's something that I desperately needed to be told growing up, and still I feel I need to be reminded that there's nothing I can and can't do right or wrong. Because at the end of the day, as long as I'm happy with the way I'm presenting myself, that's all that matters. And though this may cause some criticism from within the community of women or feminist communities, because I'm not accepting my truly female self, or from the LGBT community, because labels are quite important to some people, I think it's more important to be okay with where you're at now and focus on that. Because everything changes all the time, and I am completely a different person than I was 8 years ago when I decided that I was gonna come out. I have always known I was queer. Let's be real. And I have always known that I have not necessarily been female, but I, throughout my life, have faced the struggles of being in a female presenting body, and the effects that that has had on me while growing up is quite honestly incredible. I've been told to carry weapons with me while walking alone if I ever have to not expose too much skin because men might get the wrong idea. I've been harmlessly flirted with by men that could be my grandfather since I hit puberty, and even worse whenever I entered the workforce, particularly in the service industry. All of these things have made it difficult, yes. But I still do love being a woman. Not as much as I love being non-binary, though. I'm glad that I have had the time to reflect on my identity now, because it feels good to understand where you have come from and where you are at now. Thanks.